Well, Jim, on the topic of selling, WWE is doing everything they can to sell us on this year's WrestleMania, which I feel like every week it feels like it's still weeks away, but it's coming up in just a couple weeks now, or a week and a half.
Well, a week and a half. You got it there.
A week and a
As
half.
we sit here and speak right now, we don't know when the people are listening.
But at least SmackDown was back in the United States.
Back in the USA. The boys have come home. You know, it's always good when the boys come home from overseas. Sweet home Chicago. They found, I bet the first thing they did, Brian, they went to their hotel and they went down the hall and they went to the ice machine and they punched the button and they just stood there as the ice poured out like a slot machine in Las Vegas hitting a jackpot and enveloped them in the cool, refreshing, modern invention that is known as ice cubes. Because they probably hadn't seen any in a very long time. And I know I'm risking again offending our fans across the pond. I loved my trips over there, but God damn it. Ice, my kingdom for ice. They got ice in Chicago. We got plenty of water down here, and it was freezing, so we could have ice here as well. But they didn't get an icy reception in Chicago for SmackDown, did they? See, I brought it all the way back, Brian. It was a hot crowd there, 16,000 plus in Chi-Town.
Certain people got icy responses, but overall, no.
Well, yeah, there were certain people that were iced out of the social circle. But that's the old Rosemont Horizon. I recognize the ramp and the seating and everything. It's I don't know what are they calling it now? The fucking Al's #1 Italian Beef Center. But it's a historic building there, and they did a package with the history of the happenings between Punk and Roman and Seth. And then they come out, they're in Chicago, and the chants are CM Punk. And then, like Mussolini in Illinois, he got the big pop, and they sang the song, and they chanted the chants, and they oohed the ahs, and it's clobbering time. And of course, Punk milked it for everything. It's where that cow's udders are sore. And he even, when he got in the ring, he took the handheld camera from the cameraman and shot the crowd and fired him up. It's his hometown, and he knows how to talk and how to fire people up. He's a showman. And the promo again, he talks to people and he sounds like he means what he says, and he does mean what he says. And would you say, am I verbally filleting the man, Brian, or would you concur with this on me without sticking your tongue out or anything, that he's the best at weaving shit that is true, is real, and that either the people know to be true and real or have no reason to doubt into the promos that he does about his work environment?
Yes, actually, I would agree with you on that.
And that's that's the idea. Maybe we finally, I know that was wordy, but carve it in stone somewhere. Because that's the thing. And I'm not supposed to be here. And the theme of his promo was all through his life, people will say, you're supposed to be here. He was born with a cord around his neck. He was blue. You're not supposed to be here. When they brought him back. And it's tying into what we will find out with Happy Heyman as well. But that promo, there was legitimate stuff, and then there was stuff that was related to what he's doing. And he weaved back and forth, and very, very well done. But it was all he's overcome, and now the hard work begins. And he got him to a little chant for AJ there, but he didn't mean it. Well, not that he didn't mean it. He mentioned her and they chanted for her. And then he said, no, if you want to chant for Larry. And they chanted for Larry. Hello, puppy. And then he did the fired up WrestleMania promo. And Again, I know people are saying, oh, the buildup. I'm more interested in seeing a triple threat match than I ever have been with these three cretins involved. And as far as I'm concerned, besides Cody and the real world title, this is the star of our show. So I'm loving this shit. But he cuts the promo for WrestleMania, and then Heyman interrupts and gets a big pop. And with Paul, waddles down and puts Chicago over and Punk over. But Paul does Paul. He presented the details in his way, the history. He set the table for the thing. He in an entertaining way, he's the guy that's the manager's job. He's the guy that gives the facts and the figures and the statistics in an entertaining way as to the history of everybody involved and sets up what the issue is specifically here, why he owes Punk a favor, and illustrates the closeness that they have had that has been hinted at. And remember a year ago or whatever, it was, well, Punk's off the table for Roman, or Punk's off limits or whatever. And they've teased this, but now they're going into more detail on it because now it will be fresh in people's mind. And we're giving you more detail on something that you've already kind of known. We're not dragging it out of the blue. We're just fleshing it out because now it's pertinent, that type of thing. And Paul's got one more favor to ask of Punk. If he would do me one more favor, please tell me the favor that I owe you so I can tell Roman Reigns. And Punk responds, he says, I'm going to tell you, Paul, but because I respect you and I respect blah, 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 I want to tell everybody at the same time. I want to tell you when I tell Roman. So let me know when he shows up. And that's their show-long cliffhanger thread through the program. And also, that was 23 minutes that flew by at the top of the program, where you're updated on this issue, and then these two guys come out and sell you on the thing. And I want to see what's going to go on from there. But your thoughts on and we'll do this chronologically instead of going through the rest of SmackDown and stopping back in with the Heyman thread, Heyman hanging by a thread. We'll do this all in a row. But what'd you think of this opening segment?
I thought it was good. It felt like the beginning stuff was really, geared for the home crowd. And, we got to see it. And then it was geared for the television crowd with the Heyman stuff. And, it's like you said, they start off the show with this, and you know that there's a part 2, and you have to wait till the very, very end. And little incidents happen as incidental moments that they happen to film on this show, and they get in between.
Exposition of the issue.
But this show has so much stuff I just don't care about. And when you watch the fans react to like the tag team match and stuff, the fans may not care about some of the stuff either. But you want to see the moments and what's going to happen with the big stars. It's about that more than the matches. And if you like teasing things until the very end of the show, this did a great job.
Well, but then later on, they went back into back because Heyman was waiting for Roman Reigns. And again, by the way, they're in the same building. That was the WrestleMania great moment that they're inducting Austin and Hart at WrestleMania in the Hall of Fame match. Same building.
WrestleMania 2.
WrestleMania 2 they had there.
Yeah.
Vern Gagne ran that play. Anyway, so Heyman's waiting for Roman, and he cuts the promo. He's like, for the record, let me say this, please, Punk. Whatever Punk says, no matter what the favor is, my answer is yes. Anything. Just tell me. Tell me what it is. And then an SUV pulls up, and there's a big pop because it's Roman. But it's not Roman, it's Seth. And Seth gets out and tells Paul that I've got a plan. But when Roman gets here, you let me know because I want to be there. So now they've updated it to all three of these fuckers are going to be there. Oh, my God, I can't wait to see what's going to go on, right? So they're freshening it up and they've got people to add to this thing. So at least they're keeping it, interesting through this. Because again, 3 hours is a long, long time. But anyway, finally, Paul's in the back, sunroof top, digging the scene with a gang. No, Paul's in the back and an SUV pulls up and it's Roman. And he gets out and Paul goes to him like, oh, my tribal chief. And he walks right past Paul. Doesn't even look at him. He's pissed off. And they do the follow shot where Paul's scurrying along behind him, humming. And they go right through the gorilla position and into the arena. And the people are going crazy. And he gives them the acknowledge me. And we get the OTC chants. And then Roman looks at Paul. He's like, Paul, is he here? And the people chant CM Punk again. And he asks Paul, is he still talking about the favor? Yes. Should I share a secret with Chicago? Yes. CM Punk wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me. He wouldn't be in the main event of WrestleMania if it wasn't for me. Punk's never been in the main event until he was introduced to the tribal chief. And he goes through that whole thing. I made this company. I made this guy. And he calls Punk out. He said, come on out here. And they're waiting and no music. And Roman's looking at his watch like, what the fuck? And then suddenly the music hits and it's Seth. And whoa, and whoa. They're all woeing to the ring. Interminable woeing, I would say. Interminable is a word I would describe this. I thought we had left Europe. But anyway, Seth's story is I wouldn't miss this for the world because I don't know what the favor is, but I want to see. And he knocks Roman. And as he was talking at this point, the fans started getting a little restless because they were chanting, what's the favor? And Seth is trying to get across the point that, Roman could have stopped Punk, but he didn't. And he could have stopped Punk, but Roman didn't let him. And the people are chanting CM Punk. I got the feeling that they were ready to get to the meat of the matter here because Seth was going a little long. And finally, Roman told Seth that he was untrustworthy. And he couldn't be trust old Seth. And that's why you're fuck you. But he called Punk out, not Seth. And then the fans are starting to sing Roman Reigns. But Seth called Punk out. And as soon as he called Punk out, then we got like Mussolini the second time he. Just if you're keeping track of the number, Brian. And Punk comes to the ring with the microphone. And it said, what's the favor? And Punk said, this is about friendship, legacy, loyalty, promises made and promises kept. Paul, this goes back to 4400 Shepherdsville Road in Louisville as a familiar address, Brian. Now it's owned by the West Faversham football squad. But that was OVW. I have said, with all the spots that I recorded and all the fucking commentary I did at times I plugged those shows, I've said 4400 Shepherdsville Road more times than I've ever said the address of anywhere I've lived. But anyway, that was where I showed up and they told you I don't belong. I'm not supposed to be here and you should fire me. And you said no. And Paul, you prophesized this. And he went into a story that I wasn't on the bus, so I can't tell whether it was true or not, but it sounded awful goddamn plausible. And that's the point with Punk. Him and Paul Heyman on Big Show's bus when I think, he said, when you left the company, I think it was when Stephanie got mad and fired him. And Punk was like, oh, they're going to fire me now. And Paul said, you'll be fine. Force them to deal with us. Well, they aren't here anymore. So I'm going to force Roman to deal with us. And then Paul's facials. And he says, oh my God, in such a way you can you can read his lips perfectly. And also his jowls shake with fear at the same time. And he says, at WrestleMania, I want to be in my corner, Roman, your wise man, and my best friend, Paul Heyman. And Seth starts cackling. And Roman gets the stink face for a second, and then he starts laughing. And he's like, you understand, he loves me. The wise man needs me. I saved him. And this was the line, even if I let him, he wouldn't do it. Wise man, let this desperate fool down easy. And the people are chanting CM Punk. And Paul does the lip quiver. His eyes are puddled and bleary, even more so than usual. And Roman is, are you crying? Wipe him up and tell him no. And he starts badgering him more. And there's and Roman says, one more chance, tell him no. And Paul says, no, I can't. And he gets a big pop. And Seth is laughing again. And Roman kind of snatches old Paul and backs him up into the corner. And Punk comes from behind and squashes Roman and gives Roman the GTS, and Roman's knocked out and has a face-off with Seth. And the fans are chanting CM Punk, and Paul's screaming, no, no. And Seth steps out and gets booed for not fighting, and Punk is smirking in the ring. I'm loving this shit. What is, everybody can talk. Every issue is rooted in reality. They have been telling these stories that are now everybody's animosity and, violence is coming to a head. I mean, I'm sold. What do you think?
I've enjoyed it. I mean, you seem to be madly in love with it, but I've enjoyed it. I think...
Well, it's refreshing, something I actually want to see instead of what I'm watching out of duty.
I said it last time, and, I felt it a little bit here, but not as much. But Roman kind of doesn't feel as natural as the other two do. And Rollins is a complete crazy, goofy character. So when he feels natural, but that was what I was also going to say. This has brought out the best in Rollins on the mic because you believe him. His whiny voice works when you believe he really hates the people he's ranting and crazed about. And him being kind of like Drew, just like all of a sudden he's just lashing out and he's crazy just to the idea of Punk existing over here. I think it's been really good. And we'll see how the match goes. Like you said, I think it is one of the main matches of WrestleMania. I think in terms of matches with general interest, it's this and Cody Cena.
Well, anyway, we will see what occurs here, but there's more when we talk about Raw here shortly. In the saga of poor Happy Heyman and his former and current proteges. But I want to talk a couple other things about SmackDown, and one is Felix. Our friend Felix, the other Lucha brother, has made his debut. And he was against Nathan Frazier, who's that kind of scraggly Joe Dirt looking fucker from NXT. But would you like to hear, Brian, what I thought about our friend Felix?
Ray Phoenix, and it was his debut a few months after his brother debuted on Raw. But what did you think?
I like him. I thought he did much better than Penta did in his debut, and
really,
actually better than what Penta has done since he's been there. Because his shit was fine. There wasn't botches. There was some of the minor see-through-itness that comes with Lucha to begin with, but much better. I think, he's got if somebody is going to do the running and springing off the ropes and the diving and flipping about, he's probably the guy to do it. And I think he should be the one that they let do it.
Now, he may be the
Then
best
it
guy.
becomes different, and he's the best at it.
Yeah, he may be the best guy in the business in terms of doing the high flying stuff and making it look spectacular.
So at the same time, having a grip on how to work an actual legitimate match in a real company, there are some world-class high divers across the street that may have him beat in just the high flying alone, but he looked better. I like the look of the gimmick, and he did an in-ring promo, and that was a little better than Penta. But I just wanted to make mention of that we'll keep an eye on Felix too and see how he does. But already it was a better start, and no right-handed headlocks.
Do you think it's a good idea to keep him and his brother separate, 2 different shows, develop them both independently?
I will at this point, since they started one, they might as well do it this way, and then at some point they could bring them together, because right now Penta's involved in a 4-way with 3 other guys who want to kick the shit out of him. Sooner or later, he's going to need some backup. I don't know if they're going to do it that quickly, but I think they could establish. They've already mentioned their relationship, so they could just establish that one's there for the other guy when they really need it and see what happens from there.
And what do you say to the fan that says, you hated Penta in AEW? He did all the same stuff. You hated him. What do you say to them?
Or Felix.
Or Phoenix, whatever his name is. Phoenix,
Yes.
not Felix, Phoenix.
Well, no, that's the thing I've said, because everybody thought, you can't please Cornette. Well, they didn't remake Penta as a human being and as a pro wrestler. They put him in a different environment. He's been better in the WWE since he's been in AEW because he is produced and he does have more professional guys to work with. And he is being focused on and featured in some kind of way. All the things are coming together. So yeah, he's good. And I think Felix is better. So yeah, a lot of people were rotten in AEW. They can be better. They're still, I don't think anybody's going to replace them or replace Nick Bockwinkel on my list of favorites with, either one of these guys, but they're better in that environment because they've got help. Instead of people just saying, oh, go out and do all the shit you always do.
And they both seem so excited to be there that they will listen to the producers. They won't just be, hey, we want to do what we want to do. Yes, whatever you want, we will do. We can do it. Yes.
Yes, we will do. I said that. I don't even remember what brought it up. But Bobby Eaton, we were in Louisiana, and it was near the end of the run. Maybe he said something about he'd think we'll get over in Dallas. Whatever. I said, oh, if not, if we can change it. He said, what do we do different? I said, I can be Russian. I can be German. I can do the accents. And so every time then something would come up, Bobby would just look at me and he'd say, I can be Russian. You had to be there.
No, it's funny.
All right. Again, as I said, it was a long show, but there were 2 more things on SmackDown that we want to talk about. And one that a lot of people are interested in. I'll save that in a second. But the other deal was Nick Aldis was in the ring and introduced Kevin Owens, who has been doing the angles and has already been announced, built up for a match with Randy Orton at WrestleMania. And Owens came out and had the solemn attitude, and you could tell something was wrong. And I guess it had been leaked on the interwebs earlier in the day or whatever, what he was going to. Thankfully, I stayed away from all of that stuff. But apparently he came out and cut the promo. I've been doing this for 25 years. It's been great. Been able to take care of my family, but there's a price to pay, a toll that it takes on our bodies. And it's my turn. It's now he's hurt. And apparently, seriously, he said he's been dealing with a neck injury, I guess, since January. And they didn't know exactly what it was. And without giving any details, he found out this week, suddenly, apparently, and it had to be something new because they've already announced this match. The WWF, the way that they monitor legal and do all kinds of shit, and medical. But apparently the doctors came to him and said, no, you need to stop this right now and have neck surgery. So without knowing details of what kind of injury that is or how that happened, it's plausible that they didn't know because they're 10 days away from this goddamn build. So he thanked the WWE for letting him say it, and he doesn't know when he's going to be back. And thank you, and I'm sorry. And then Orton's music hits, and people are like, uh-oh, but since he's really fucked up, they weren't going to, goddamn have him pile drive Owens or anything, but he came out, they did the face-off, Kevin left, Orton was in the ring, not really demonstrative and facial expressions as to what anybody was thinking. And Aldis says, well, no, we've got the problem now, Randy, that you have no match for WrestleMania. And Orton looked up at Aldis and just jumped up and RKO'd him, which was a nice way of giving people a pop to get out of a sucky segment. But I hate this. And everybody, oh, you hate it. No, he's been doing some of the best shit that he's been doing or has done lately, Owens, since we've talked about it, abandoned the anger management issue he had where he did, let's just fight all the time. And he switched heel and he got the pile driver over, and he's been cutting some good promos, but he hasn't wrestled. Now that you look in hindsight, he only had that match with Zayn in February. He has not really been wrestling a lot. He said it was a match in January. I don't remember what he did in January that would have, but they've known that he's been hurt in some fashion, but didn't know it was going to be that serious. So I hate to see that. Am I a curse, Brian, when no matter how much I ever despise somebody, if I actually start cheering up about them a little bit and warming up or cooling off or whatever the right phrase would be, then they're stricken with goddamn horrible injuries?
Say some nice stuff about Moxley.
I can't think of anything.
He's going to be here for a while.
But anyway, I hate to see that. So get well soon, Kevin. For heaven's sake, we don't want to submit.
What about Orton?
This is why this is why I didn't want him diving off the goddamn roof when they wanted to 15 years ago for just such an occasion.
And I read a quote from him where he said it wasn't like a ladder match or anything. It was actually a regular match where something happened and it got tweaked. And,
well, yeah, I mean, anything can happen, but that's why you try to mitigate the damage you do so that the shit is weaker to begin with. And you said, what about Orton and Aldis? I don't think people would want to. Aldis has not been such a reprehensible character that Orton has any reason to want to beat the shit out of him in a prolonged match, nor do the people really have any reason to want to see it. I think this was just to keep in character with what Randy Orton would do and to give the people something to remember past. Oh my God, one of my favorite wrestlers is all fucked up and who knows if we'll ever see him again. That type of thing. It was an out of the segment. I wouldn't read a lot into it.
How about Aldis and Mickey versus Undertaker and McCool?
I might pay to see that. That might be something. But only if the men can wrestle the women and vice versa.
Well, Jim, I'm sure you can understand probably more than most segments on SmackDown, we heard feedback from people dying to hear what you were going to say about, I saw it live. I watched as it happened and I couldn't believe what I was watching. I wanted to know what you were going to think of this. Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair with Nick Aldis standing there watching this transpire.
No, wrong guy with the accent. It was Barrett, wasn't it?
Oh, it was Wade Barrett. That's right.
It was Barrett. Right. Well, they all look alike over there. But yeah, Charlotte and Tiffy. And this, honestly, I mean, I don't know what ill will there is between these two women, but the ability for this thing to go sideways and off the rail was Charlotte's fault for letting the people get to her and make it obvious to where that it derailed what they were trying to do and potentially then was Tiffy tiffed or was she pissed off? They were both brought to the ring by Wade Barrett. Bad news because they've got the upcoming Clash of the Titans and, you know, they're going to do an interview segment. And obviously the point of the thing was that they were going to be catty to each other. That's kind of the gist of the whole thing. But for whatever reason, people have taken to Tiffy, despite the fact that she was presented pretty much as a heel there along. They took to her I don't know, the screechy voice and the delivery and she's obviously working hard, right? I'm not saying she's slacking off, but she's a gymnast that they've taught to do some moves and they've thrust her into this situation. And to me, she has a look on her face like, what the fuck is this? And what am I doing here a lot? And the voice, because was supposed to be originally her gimmick was the annoying, rich, quasi Paris Hilton type of douchebag that you want to choke when you see him on TMZ, right, Brian? It was that was the original presentation of her. And then the people said, well, we like her.
I don't know about the douchebag you want to choke. I don't know. Again, I don't know about your TMZ viewing habits. I don't know what exactly you're watching over there, but.
Well, you know, the foo-foo girl with the Tiffy time and everything, it was supposed to be, you know, not favorable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what you call it at this point. The Valley Girl or whatever it is, but WWE fans watched her through NXT. I will say, unlike a lot of the girls that you see on NXT then and now, she has a little bit of size and she's pretty good in the ring. So I've actually... You know, again, this is her gimmick.
Well, I'm not saying
crazy about the gimmick, but I've actually found her to be, you know, I can understand why the fans have taken to her. She's pretty good.
I'm not saying she's B-Fab. I'm saying that you can tell that they just kind of pulled this athletic young girl who probably didn't have a lot of product knowledge into this thing, and I can see it in the ring. But the point is the voice and the delivery, but they like her, okay. Well, meanwhile, here comes Charlotte, and they don't like her, and they're in Chi-Town, not Charlotte, and the people started booing her as they do Dominic, as they do when they decide. Same thing. They decided they like Tiffy, so now they decided they don't like Charlotte, and they're going to boo the shit out of her. But she let it be obvious that it was getting to her. I mean, she was trying to do the start. You know, she said about Tiffany, she wanted a moment and I hadn't done any charity work lately. She's trying to, you know, speak down to the greenhorn there.
Well, it started right off the bat. As soon as the fans started booing and they were both in there, and the boos just like, it was like a growing boo.
Yeah,
it was like, like it just kept growing and getting bigger and louder. And she said, that's power. And I was like, okay, that's an interesting way to try to say, fuck that, let's get to what we're doing. And then Tiffany goes, what time is it? And I've never heard it this loud before. It's Tiffany time! Like just everyone screamed it. I was like, okay, they've got a really live, active crowd into this. And then the booing did not stop.
Yes, well, but then that's the thing is they started trying to do their stuff. And when Charlotte, the people would boo Charlotte, but in this program, you heard people getting on, the guys in the last segment getting on with their shit when the people are booing because it's shit that needs to be said. And yes, you can milk it, but not when the problem became that Charlotte stopped with the people and started addressing them more than staying with the fucking flow of the moment. And she let them slow her down. She not only did that, but they saw that they were stopping her and they were interfering with her. Here's another thing that I've seen a few times here lately when somebody will start a sentence and then the people react and then boo or whatever, and they stop and milk that, but then they start back with the same words again. You can tell not only was it a prepared statement instead of something you were saying off the cuff, but also we interfered with you. And then they want to do it more. And instead of her paying attention to what they were doing and letting the people do their thing, which you would think Charlotte's been around long enough to be used to being booed in the promos. But then,
it's a different animal. She's never been booed like this since her comeback. Since the Royal Rumble. Then she's never been booed.
Goddamn it, enjoy it. Do you think Flair would have stopped when he was yelling at Dusty and Dusty was standing right there to fucking turn around and spend time on the people instead of shut up, fat boy? My shoes cost more than your house?
It's a new thing, though. Flair was never booed on the mic like that. I can't think of a time Ric Flair got on the microphone as a heel and people were just like, I don't want to hear him talk. Boo! Nonstop.
Well, part of this is that the people have decided not only are they singers, but they're also censors. And if it becomes a thing, and Dominic, that was the first one, remember, but then they've started doing that since then. If they decide that they don't want to hear from a guy and it's cool, that all of them together can boo and shut him down and be part of the show, that's what they're doing. They're not even doing it a lot of times now because they really hate the person. If they really hate the person, it's just a groaning, shut the fuck up type of boo. We don't want to hear you talk. But this is audience participation. Some of them may think that's what they're supposed to do, but they like doing it. And if you show the people who are doing it that it's going to flummox the fuck out of you, then they've got you. And then that's what they tried to get back to it. Charlotte made fun of Tiffany's voice because she was trying to screech over the den about the match. And I wrote here, Tiffy trying to get back to promo. But then she popped up and said, Charlotte, after WrestleMania, it's going to be, your life is going to be just like it is outside the ring, alone. What's your record now? 0-3? And then she dropped down and bailed out of the ring so that Charlotte had to run to the ropes to try to get the last word, which obviously wasn't scheduled because she's running after her going, was that why Kaiser's in my DMs? Which is the way the young people say they're attempting to fuck behind somebody's back, right?
Which was the reveal on the show that Tiffany's dating Kaiser. That's never been a thing before said on the air.
Well, because we don't keep track of her DMs either. But there's a lot of direct fucking going on.
When she said you're 0-3, before she rolled out, she went, woo!
Oh, yeah, woo! And then, and now here's the thing. This girl is not, she may be a Rhodes Scholar and study astronomy. I'm not talking about she's stupid, but she's not experienced quick enough on television to have just come up with that on the spur of the moment because she was mad about the way the promo was going. She had to have that one already, didn't she?
Oh, I think there may be legitimate feelings with her and maybe even other talent with Charlotte. Absolutely.
Feelings. Whoa. Feelings.
The audio's cutting out. Your singing is too high pitched.
Hey, it's just not able to handle I'm like one of those opera singers that can shatter glass. I've got the fucking 0.1 percentile high octave thing going on here. But anyway, so Tiffy bailed out and rolled out and left Charlotte standing there with her microphone in her hand, trying to get that last line in. And it was hard to hear to begin with. And the recipient had already taken the shot at her and rolled out, so she couldn't get to her. So now are they going to have some cat scratch fever in their match? Are they going to get into it for real? Can we look forward to a shoot between these two?
Probably not, but it definitely makes me more interested in the match.
I'd actually be more interested if I thought we were going to see a shoot between these two from all the other shit I've seen lately.
I'll say they have a Charlotte problem. I know you don't see it this way, but it's not just fans enjoying booing. It's fans who don't want to see her. And I don't know. I don't know exactly what has caused it. I do think there are certain things that haven't helped. You know, not to make fun of it, not to bring it up for no reason, but you see enough people talk about it, and I've thought it too. When she comes back every time looking radically different, it's a weird thing. I think there's a little bit of that. I think for whatever reason, the fans right now are at a weird point, almost like AEW fans with Cody. You know, I don't know what she could do right now to stop this. I mean, get out of Chicago, maybe the first thing. But I think there is a little bit of a fan pushback happening here. Again, I don't know what they wanted. Who did they want Tiffany Stratton to wrestle? I don't even know if it's about Tiffany Stratton. I think it's a Charlotte thing independent of that. This happened to be an example of her colliding in this segment with the person that right now the fans have chosen. It rattled her bad. I mean, there were times where she stopped talking, and it was almost like you could see she's trying to think what... She was smiling the whole time, and she has her dad's smile, and she's just thinking, like, what should I say or do next? It was really awkward. And again, I don't know where they go from here. It got out that they edited it. When WWE put it on social media, the 0-3 line and the Kaiser's in my DMs line were both edited out of wherever they put it on YouTube and everywhere else.
And see, that's a sign right there to me. There was no profanity. There was no double entendre that would have taken it into the gutter. More harmful things are said on television all the time. That had to be a specific request from one or both participants. That, well, if you take hers out, you can take mine out, or vice versa. Because there was no other reason to do that otherwise than somebody in the segment said, what the fuck? Maybe both people in the segment said, what the fuck?
See, that's what I'd like to know. Where did it exactly go completely awry? Because she brought up this interview. Apparently Charlotte did an interview somewhere. I'm not sure what talk show it was, but apparently it's out there, where she talked about being divorced 3 times and she didn't want to be like her dad and various things. And then Tiffany brought it up in this thing. Was that planned? Because that's a public interview that's out there. People have talked about it. Or was that something she wasn't supposed to do? Like, where did this go? Okay, now you're bringing up shit you're not supposed to bring up. Was it just at the very end, or was it even before then?
When Tiffy said that line, she immediately dropped and rolled out like I used to when I'd give Wrestling 2 the last lash with the belt and I knew he was going to come for me. And then Charlotte trying to rush her retort in while the girl's already bailed out, that obviously wasn't walked through that way. So some or all of that had to be a spur of the moment.
Yeah, by the way, great job, Wade Barrett. What were you doing? Just
he was standing there going, Jesus Christ, what's going on here? It doesn't sound like it did in rehearsal. But to your point about Charlotte, I could understand if are they just revolting against her because she's always booked on top? Who is better? It's not like a Mercedes Moné type of thing where, you know, she's hyped and pushed and all these other girls are so much better. Is it the flair thing?
What have we seen with Charlotte that's that good in a long time? She's almost never there. And when she's there,
she was hurt for 1.5 years. That's why I thought that people would be glad to see her when she came back.
You know, and again, now you start thinking about it, there were prior incidents. Remember there was the incident where her and Becky Lynch started going at each other in a promo on Raw?
I remember that. Yeah.
Her and Nia Jax punching each other out in the middle of the ring. Remember that?
Yes, with the fridge. See, that's why she's on top, because she's the interesting one. There's always something going on. It's not just girl wrestling with Charlotte.
Do you think all the boos and all this behavior, it's just to set up Tessa being brought in as her partner?
Ooh, no, but I think you should say when we're talking about a member of the Flair family, you should say all the booing rather than all the boos to
Oh,
differentiate.
that's true.
Just
I
keep
guess
an eye on that
booze has a
verbiage.
different meaning in the Flair
But that's
family.
why I want to be clear here. We're not
Thank you for
and
clearing that up. No, we definitely
yes.
needed that clarity here.
And then I think they're going to bring in, they got a new girl in the training development center is the performance center. She's an Egyptian. They're going to bring her in to fight Flair.
Well, that would be the ultimate enemy of the Flairs. It's Ricky Steamboat and, of course, the Egyptian.
Yeah, I'm telling you, we were doing fine till the Egyptian showed up.
I'm sure the match will be good. I mean, but we'll see. Charlotte, as you think about it, the Royal Rumble and what else, she barely has worked in a very long time. And again, when I say she looks different, it's not just facial surgery. I mean, physically, she doesn't have. She used to have not a bigger frame, but she was like an athlete. Like, she doesn't look like.
Well, hold on now, cowboy. Before you put your foot in your mouth, what she's done is she is leaned up, is what you're saying. That's a nicer way to put it.
I guess so.
Well, but herein lies the problem. What you're also not going to see, for good, bad, or indifferent, is that moonsault off the top rope to the floor anymore because she blew her knee. She's had a knee issue. She's got the brace. What did Terry Gordy do when he had 2 blown ACLs? Besides not get them fixed, he lost like 40 pounds. You try to lose weight as best you can and still retain whatever look you're going for, and you eliminate shit out of your repertoire that requires stress, or not only landing on your knee, but landing on your feet in a dodgy situation from high heights. That's going to be something she's going to avoid. So I can't browbeat her for trying to drop some weight after a knee injury. A guy, girl, or animal, vegetable, or mineral does that, but it's not to the. We'll talk later on, but it's not to the point of Adam Cole. I don't know what's going on there. At first, I thought he might have been sick, and I didn't want to say anything. But now he's wrestling 20-minute matches. He just weighs 140 pounds. But anyhow,
did you see Ludwig Kaiser's response?
He didn't respond on TV.
No, he responded on social media.
He responded on the Twitter. What did he say there?
He took to Twitter, tagged Charlotte Flair, and posted a video of Shawn Michaels telling Diana Smith, "Please do not flatter yourself."
Oh!
Which you were there for, so you remember that moment.
Oh, my God. And boy, I can only imagine what Shawn would have said if Diana had said all the things she wanted to say.
Yeah, instead of Stu, you'd have Flair calling you up. You call my daughter a whore! Woo!
Yeah.
Whore!
You want me.
That was the best line. Shawn, I know that you want me.
Thank you.
The way she delivered it.
Thank you.
So
you should have heard. I'll tell you this real quick. We'll get on with the regular programming. But we were setting that up. And the storyline was, until Stu made phone calls, that somehow Davey and Diana were going to be working in collusion to set Shawn up to look like a I don't know what he was supposed to look like. I mean, even more of a prick than he already was back then, but that he was hitting on Diana and trying to come in between their marriage and acting salaciously or whatever the fuck. And we got there, and Diana had come up with, Diana, if you're listening out there, I love you. But she had come up with a rather lengthy statement about the whole situation that in her mind she thought would really bring some gravitas. I said, Diana, please, just listen to me. All you got to say is when it comes to you and you're looking at Shawn, and I've set up the principle of the thing, just say, Shawn, you want me. And just step back and let the people react. And she was kind of miffed because she wanted to do her scene, right? And she said, Shawn, you want me. And Shawn sold it with his face, and the people just, wow, bullshit, because he's been in Playgirl. And Diana was an attractive woman, but, he's curtsying around with Pamela Anderson on pay-per-view
Yeah.
at that point in time.
With Vince on the rug.
Yeah, and I wonder where Pamela fit in that equation.
Jose should have dropped his pants and been like, "It's me!
It's me! It's me."
Well, again, back to the Charlotte thing. They have the match
Yes.
coming up. We'll see how the fans react. I mean, we're right around the corner from WrestleMania, but on any of the TV shows. But, was it a one-time thing in terms of it going completely off the rails? Where the boos prevent her from being able to talk in front of a crowd? Dominic seemed comfortable with it. She completely did not.
Yeah, and that's what confused me, because with her experience, you would have thought Tiffy might have got rattled if it had been the other way around, because she's brand new. But with Charlotte, it's the point is, it's still television, and you've still got to say you're still promoting WrestleMania. You still got to say the things you need to say, and you can, if you're an adept heel, verbally with the Drew McIntyres or the Heyman when he's in that position, or Punks or whoever, you can drop back for a second and snipe with a fan every once in a while, or the fans, and still keep your role going. But if it's throwing you off that bad, just, you got the microphone, say the shit that needs to be said. If the crowd at home ain't listening, or not at home, but if the crowd in the arena ain't listening, the people at home can still hear you. Because it doesn't really work for a shoot that the fans in the arena can drown out the guy with the microphone. The audio guy is doing that too. Remember, I've talked about this when they started doing with Dominic. The audio guy was turning Dominic's sound down and the crowd sound up on purpose to make that impression, because that was more important than anything Dominic could have said at that point. But if you've got the microphone and the people in the truck are not victims of carbon monoxide poisoning, they can bring your audio up and the people in the arena cannot stop you from being heard at home. Have I made that point, Brian?
Yes.
Then why didn't she do it? All right. That's all I got to say about that. We'll see what happens if they get in a verbal or physical shoot here in the near future. I'd like to see that. And now Charlotte better watch out, because Tiffy's stocky and she's younger.
I put my money on Tiffany in a fight.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But Charlotte's still a better worker, even if nobody doesn't like her.
Well, we'll see. Again, we haven't seen Charlotte work in a very long time, and they have really good women's workers there. Is Charlotte as good as Rhea Ripley or Bianca Belair or Io Sky or Tiffany right now? We'll see.
Oh,
Liv?
I'm not saying at this point that Charlotte is better than Rhea Ripley, and I might even give you Bianca Belair. She's much more important for drawing some kind of money than Io Sky.
We'll see, because, the one thing she had that I always thought she had the greatest presence, just from the moment she came out of the back with the robe, walking out. I thought she had great presence. But if she's rattled and she loses that, I don't know what, again, let's see her work a match. We haven't seen her work yet. But that was a pretty concerning segment if you're a Charlotte fan, just in terms of how it appeared to affect her.